Today here on New Dice, we're going to discuss classes, tier lists, classes, and we are going to touch on respect at the table, all today on New Dice. So I'm not a video editor. This is my first episode of this. Thank you for checking it out. Hopefully you find it enjoyable. I'm new to this world, not only of putting this out on YouTube, but of course to TTRPGs themselves. So the insight I'm going to bring to you comes from someone who's newer to the hobby and might be wrong about a lot of things, which I'm here, and the comments are here for you to chime in and let me know what I'm wrong about. But just maybe some new eyes to the hobby may be useful for you as a player or a GM. During today's episode, we're going to get into our main chunk of the conversation, which is about classes. And at the end, we're going to go to It Happened at the Table, where I take something that happened at one of my latest or some TTRPG game that I played, and we're going to take a piece of it out and try to dissect it a little bit. Thanks again for checking this out. So today, I want to talk about classes. And there's a reason for this. The reason being, the class I love in Dungeons and Dragons is the Ranger. I have always been in love with the Ranger. When I fell in love with the idea of Dungeons and Dragons, I immediately thought, get a bow in my hand, deck me out like Robin Hood. That's where I want to be. I want to play this game so that I can shoot the bow and arrow. I can be the ranger. I can hide in the trees. I can hide in the woods while people are fighting up front, and I can get it done from a distance. Now, I love the ranger, and I will always default to Atlas Falconfield, my ranger. But this is where the internet steps in, because I think there's probably a lot of people like me who want to be a ranger when they play this game. And if you go online, one of the great things that is out there are people doing tier lists. I love a tier list. What are the greatest modules of all time? What are the greatest systems of all time? And what are the greatest classes? And those things are great and very fun to watch, but I do think they can be a hindrance, and I wanted to address those things today because I think it's something we need to pay attention to. As great as those are and as fun as they are to watch, those videos for new players and new GMs can really be a hindrance because they can push people away from immersing themselves into a character they've always dreamed of playing, because the tier list says the class they want is a D tier, an F tier. It's not worth playing. You don't want to be that. In fact, the best tier and the best class is this triple multi-classed character that's going to be impossible to know how to play for a new character, but that's what you need to focus on. And here's the path you need to take, and here's the spells you need, and here's how you can make that character really fun. And that's really great. But what about us Rangers? We get dunked on. 2024 rules, people say the Ranger got ruined. 2014, people said the Ranger's ruined. It's not working. And this is where I want to step in, and I want to reset something with this, because there are things, and people make good points about how the Ranger and other classes don't work and what they could have better. And, oh, this has been ruined, and why isn't this fixed and all that? At your table, it can be. And for you, it can be. And through all that noise, I hope that we can find a spot where player X steps to the table and says, I've been dying to be a cleric. I've been dying to be a warlock. I picked up this book. I didn't know what it was, and a ranger shouted out my name. And that's what I wanted to play. And I want them to go to that table as that character and immerse themselves in that world, regardless of what others say that class can do. And I think this is an important thing to note. You can have fun with any of the classes in a game like Dungeons and Dragons. You really can. Maybe there's going to be someone at the table who seems a little more powerful than you. Maybe there's someone at the table who can do cooler things in a moment than you can. But it's your job as a player to get into your character and sell out for what you have created and get in there and just live in that class that you wanted to play. So players, I'd urge you to play the character you want to try and really go for it. And try to avoid the distractions of other players getting nutty at the table and celebrate their accomplishments. And maybe they'll celebrate yours back. And game masters, dungeon masters, this is where you have to grab your mirror and look at how you're dealing with your table. Because you also see the tier list. You also know what classes are not the greatest to play. You've probably played yourself and you're like, I don't really love playing that class. So when someone sits down at your table and they decide to be that character that you don't really like, how are you going to make it cool for them? Because that's kind of your job, part of your job. Set them up. Get them in a spot where their actions, the things they can do, are exemplified. Single them out. Put them in a spot that will make them do something cool. Sure, maybe the actual action they take is not the most legendary sounding thing. But whatever that is they can do, focus on it and make that special to your table. Because that's what you want to have. You want to have your people, regardless of what class they're playing, do special things and talk about it and think about it on their drive home from your house or wherever it is you're playing and think, I cannot wait next week when I get Atlas Falcon Field back out there and I notch an arrow and I launch it across the battlefield and I get a killing blow on a big bad. Take a look at those. The classes are great and the tier lists are awesome, but every class should feel special at your table. Okay, let's switch gears to a little section I like to call It Happened at the Table. So this happened at a Traveler game I was playing. We've been playing this game, Traveler. It's new to all of us who are playing it, and it's a really cool system. Very different from the Dungeons and Dragons that I'm used to playing. And one of the things that you're told right off the bat, combat is deadly, and the way that the economy works in it in terms of like your actions and how that goes is so different from D&D and the exploration and it's such a different game, right? It's in outer space. It's the whole game just runs differently than Dungeons and Dragons. But it's been very cool and it's been very exciting. And that's what happened to the table for us that is something that I think we need to pay attention to, again, as players and GMs. Things started to get exciting at the table, and all of us are in this new system that we're excited about in a new world that we hadn't been in. I think a lot of us had played in a fantasy environment, so being in an outer space environment where we're surrounded by other humans and it's more futuristic, it was cool and interesting. We're interacting with new things that we don't interact with in a fantasy game. And the players, there was four players, and we have our GM. We started to get excited because we were getting into some drama. There was some weird stuff happening in a settlement we found. We may have been kidnapped by these people and brought here to this area. We may not have been. They may not know that we are here against our own will. Either way, we're in a situation now where we are trying to find out why we're here. We don't have our memories, and we've ended up outside of this little settlement. And people started to get excited at our table. And what that led to was all of us as players wanting to do things. Our game master set up people in places that we could interact with. We've got a pilot of a ship that had crashed that we were on. We've got a person who runs part of this little town, the common area. She's kind of in charge of the common area. She's there. And then there's this kind of strange other mysterious person who is also on our ship with us we want to talk to. So we have all these options of people to talk to. And everyone at the table wanted to do something different. And what did that lead to? Well, it led to all of us talking over each other. And it led to my excitement to interrogate the pilot being equally as exciting to me as my buddy Eric wanting to talk to this lady who runs the common area. And he wanted to talk to her, and everyone wanted to do their thing. And everyone started talking over each other. And I think this happens a lot at tables when stuff starts heating up in the game. We're pretty good about sharing the wealth when you don't know what to do necessarily and everyone's kind of trying to think of something. If someone finally has an idea and they say it and you're like, this is great. What a great moment. Mike, thank you for saying something there. We needed someone to say something. But then when things get crazy and everyone's got ideas, it gets hard to take your turn because you want your thing to set something off. And what if this person is talking and they set something off that then makes it so my conversation doesn't happen? And I think as players, we need to reset and pay attention to these kind of moments and take a second to trust our team at the table to make sure we're all going to enjoy it. And This is, I'm sure, challenging and it won't always work. And you might have a player at your table who just dominates it. And at that point, this is probably going to have to be someone who has talked to outside of the game and just, reminded we're all doing this together. And we want to each have turns to be in the driver's seat. But game masters, I think this is a big part for you because I think this situation can happen a lot. And what I would worry about at your table, and again, this is coming from someone who's new to gaming. If you are with someone who is new and they have an idea and they start saying it and someone else talks over top of them, two other people come in with another idea, it could shut them up forever and it could shut them out of the hobby. So I think this is something that needs to be paid attention to because it can be a sensitive thing. There are a lot of people who are maybe very introverted who have found their way to the table and this is their moment to get out of that shell. And then when they are stomped on by the person who is an extrovert and likes to talk a lot, and that person isn't necessarily doing it to be annoying or to hurt the game, it can. So game masters, make sure you have a leash on that at your table because at ours, we let it spiral a little too much. And I think we realized it too late and couldn't quite get that genie back in the bottle. And we just had to get out of that situation entirely. The game master just kind of shut the doors to this room we're in and we reset in a new area, which was fine. But I do think there was probably some things we missed in there that were good clues for us to use moving forward. And that happened at our table. I hope it doesn't happen at yours. And maybe this can help you right that ship. And just remember, respect the other people as you're at your table as players and game masters. Make sure you are paying attention to who's talking over who at your table and try to get a rein on that and tell someone, hey, look, I'm going to get to you in just a second. But right now, we're going to let Lucas take his moment. And he's going to get to talk about what he wants to talk about with this character because he started first. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you checking out the New Dice channel. I hope you enjoy it. As you can tell, I'm not a great video editor. I'm using, just so everyone knows, I'm using my phone right now to film it. I don't have a lot of crazy editing software. We will see how the quality of these goes, not only in the content, but also in the actual product you're looking at on YouTube. Go ahead if you want to subscribe, if you want to comment, if you want to like it. I'm new to this, so any kind of growth is good. We're going to have more of these coming out. Next week, we might talk about TPKs. Again, there is that to talk about. And then, of course, anything that you guys bring up in the comments below, we're going to try to talk about those things as well. Thanks again. Enjoy your games, and thanks for checking out New Dice.